Greetings to you all from Stephen Gill from Canada. Feature 10 of my conversations is to answer a question, and this question is from Professor Dr. Savita Singh. Dr. Savita Singh asked about arts and also about IKS University. This IKS University is one of the oldest and most respectable seat of learning devoted to arts in India. IKS University is situated in Khairagarh in the province of Chhattisgarh in India. My answer is literature is communication, and communication is oxygen of life. Communication in creative arts, including dancing, including painting, including singing, music, and poetry, is through artistic beauty, and beauty is peace. A good creative literature form takes humans to a higher level of communication. Now in feature 3, answering a question by Professor Dr. Agarwal, I say, even animals and plants communicate in their own way. Human communication is of a high level, is a highly developed nature. Communication in healthy literature is through artistic beauty, and beauty is peace. The opposite of beauty is ugliness, and ugliness embodies violence. Literature is by human for humans. The relations of humans to literature is the same that is between sound and music. Good, healthy literature is a candle that spreads the fragrance of light. We all like light. There are persons, except blind people, there are persons who are allergic to this fragrance. They want to put out this candle. They want to be in dark. They are sick. Violence is the expression of sick mind to uproot life, to kill communication, to annihilate life, to suffocate day-to-day human activities. Healthy literature takes human to a higher level of communication. Artistic beauty deepens the awareness of life, and this awareness is very important because it produces fruits of blessedness. The world is filled with fruits. The world is filled with trees. The world is filled with flowers of every shape, in every color, of every taste, for human to celebrate these beauties. Now it is the human who have poisoned these beauties and made the world a dismal place. About communication, about the goal of arts, I say in my preface For a Peaceful Future, and this book was published by Prakash Book in 2013. There I say I have adopted creative art to convey peace for the good of citizens of the globe. It is not easy to survive financially in this sort of serious writing, though every human hungers after peace. Moreover, I never ignored the norms of the art for the sake of my message. Every poet or fiction writer needs material just as a potter needs clay and a carpenter needs wood. I have picked up the clay and the wood of peace to build the fort of my writing. Like a propagandist, I do not have a personal agenda when I plead for peace. I found Khairagarh. I find this university, called also IKS University, unique for its layout, unique in its atmosphere, and unique for the students and teachers. They themselves are unique. The university is surrounded with nature. And nature here has silence, and the silence is also communicative in a creative way. As a poet, I could hear the depth of the meaningful silence. Art is the product of creative thinking that is abundant within IKS University. Here, I was pleased to meet the head of the English department, Professor Dr. I.D. Tiwari, and his assistant, Dr. Manoj Kumar Sharma. I was also pleased to meet scholars of English, including Rupal Farishta, Sapna Parihar, Rekha, and others. I was impressed to meet Vice Chancellor, Professor Dr. Mandvi Singh. Dr. Mandvi Singh is a prominent artist in the field of dancing. She was deeply communicative, as I heard. She is in her art. It was for the first time in my life to meet a vice chancellor who was also a celebrated dancer. Her face and her ways of talking was a rare combination of a capable artist and a capable administrator. I have no doubt that the ideal location and environment of IKS University has and will continue producing ideal artists of a wider range and wider reputation. I feel happy to add that IKS University is one of the oldest seats of learning in India, with a surrounding that touches the courts of poets. It is utterly amazing that the university is exclusively devoted to the fine arts. It is also utterly amazing that this university has branches all across India and has produced eminent artists from divergent branches of arts. I remember with gratitude the royal rulers who made it possible for artists of different branches to draw the water of knowledge and inspiration from the well of Indra Kala Sangeet University, in short, IKS University of Khairagarh. It is said that Princess Indra, who had a passion for music, and her parents are the symbol of hope to withstand this destructive situation that have been created by man for man. The royal family of Khairagarh symbolizes the art that creates peace in a peaceful way. Contributions of the royal family of Khairagarh, particularly in the field of education and arts, are generous and notable. I would like to add that Professor Dr. Mandvi Singh, who is the Vice Chancellor, is a vibrant soul behind the vibrant life of this university. She has an extensive list of publications and a number of university degrees. She has strength. She has stamina. She also has dedication to art and to serve the community of artists. I'm certain that under the care of a recognized gifted artist, the IKS University will grow and become an ideal resort for scholars to work in a peaceful atmosphere. Indra Kala Sangeet University, IKS University, was established by ancestors of Vice Chancellor Professor Mandvi Singh, the late King Brindra Bahadur Singh, and Her Majesty the late Rani Padmavati Devi had a daughter by the name of Indra. She died at an early age. Princess Indra had a genuine passion for music. It was 1958. Royal family donated their palace to establish Indra Kala Sangeet University for the promotion of music and visual arts, naming the university after their daughter Indra. I would like to mention with pleasure that Professor Dr. Savita Singh, you also inherit royal blood, as does the Vice Chancellor of IKS University. You both are down to earth. My visit to this university and evenings of meaningful discussions with the head of the Department of English Literature, Professor Dr. Aidit Tiwari, shall remain fresh in the museum of my memory. I met several prominent professors of literature and literary personalities at this university during conferences organized by Professor Dr. Aidit Tiwari, and one of them is Professor Dr. N.D.R. Chandra and Professor Dr. A.K. Chaudhary. Both co-edited an anthology of research papers on me titled War and Peace in the Works of Stephen Gill, and this book was released by Pointer Publishers in India in 2014. Professor N.D.R. Chandra was later appointed Vice Chancellor of Bastar University, and when he was appointed Vice Chancellor, he invited me as keynote speaker at one of the conferences of Bastar University. Professor Dr. Tiwari, I would like to mention here that he supervised two doctors, two scholars, to work on Stephen Gill, so they were qualified as doctors, nor they are teaching, and also Professor I.D. Tiwari edited a book titled Stephen Gill in the West that was released by Authors Press. This is the seat of learning. IKS University is a seat of learning where I found a seed that grew into a tree of my novel, The Chhattisgarh. I met several characters of my novel here. This place was instrumental to visit another city where I met Rajas and Maharajas, and one of them inspired me further to write this novel. Dr. Savita Singh, I often remember your husband, Mr. Singh, who was the principal of Rajkumar College. This college was managed by the rulers of Chhattisgarh province during the British rule, and it was reserved for the children of Rajas, and its principal was always from England. As far as Mr. Singh, your husband, is concerned, I still remember his reflective. I still remember his humble appearance and his arrangements for my talk and for the arrangement for my comfortable stay at the Rajkumar guest house, and particularly the evening of dinner, where the first time I met princesses. That was an unforgettable evening. An immense amount of the basic material for my book on Chhattisgarh came also from your dear husband, Dr. Singh. You have been always silently backing these helps. I am sure I cannot remove these fond memories from the museum of my soul. You and your husband often arrange to stay at the guest house of Rajkumar College in Raipur, where I met several previous rulers of some states of India. And one was Maharaja of Bastar, who later invited me to his palace that I was able to visit with my friend Vice Chancellor N.D.R. Chandra of Bastar University to give a talk. A fund of material came from Maharaja of Bastar while enjoying dinners and finishing cups of tea at Rajkumar guest house. The slides of his celebrations as Maharajas that he showed to manifest that the people of Bastar still loved him, though previous rulers. they have been dethroned, as the Constitution of India says. As we sat around a small office table, Maharaja ordered tea. He gave me his cell number and email, suggesting to be careful to lose them because they both were personal. And during our conversation, he told me that his whole family was butchered. Whole families were butchered by a special police force that was dispatched from New Delhi. The front room of his palace, he said, that you will see one day was filled with dead bodies, and there was so much blood in that room, front room, that they had to drill holes in the walls to let the blood flow out. All the precious stones from the walls and ceiling, he said, of their palace were plundered. Maharaja of Bastar showed me the room when I visited a year later. The citizen, he said, of a state, when heard about the special unit of police, rushed to defend their ruler armed with bows and arrows. They were not able to do anything to face the special unit armed with guns. These citizens of Bastar were butchered on the spot, and their dead bodies were loaded in buses and thrown in the river. I was deeply moved to hear the tragic end of his family. I can add with certainty that IKS University, where I often stayed during my visits to India, that has been instrumental in developing my bonds with the cultural, with the literary, with the historical and artistic life around that area. These bonds have been developing my novel, The Chhattisgarh. I have described somewhat in detail in my novel about the guest house of IKS University where I used to stay, and about his kitchen where I used to eat with prominent guests. My friend, I have a lot more to add, but I will prefer to say by here. Thanks for listening, and I pray to the Almighty to bless you all.